Welcome back to my channel. I'm Emily Lawrence. I'm a self-published author of 3 novels and a freelance editor. Links will be down below. Today's video is going to be a day in the life, a chatty vlog about writing. More specifically, my tips and how I draft a project. Now, the main thing to know is when you're rough drafting, there's a couple different ways people refer to it as. Some refer to it as zero drafting, which is just the bare bones of your novel, and a first draft. I typically write a first draft, which means most of the components of the novel are there. I actually have to change very little in the grand scheme of the plot. There's quite a bit of work for characters and world building and things like that that I end up doing within my second, third, and fourth draft. But the bones of the novel and kind of the structure and everything stay relatively the same. I know people that zero draft a novel and they have to pretty much completely rewrite it because they are getting used to the characters and the world and the plot. Either way you write is fine. Find what works for you and stick with it. In this video, I am hoping some of my drafting tips will help those of you that are stuck on drafting or not quite sure how to get started. Okay, so I just got breakfast cooked for the girls and myself. But before I eat, I'll give my first tip on drafting. Now, I write full-length novels, short stories, and novellas. They all within the fantasy genre. Draco and Luna, the full-length novel, is a dark fantasy adventure series. The Damned and Forgotten short story collection is paranormal romance and paranormal fantasy. Avery's short story collection is YA fantasy. My biggest tip for drafting anything, I do this for all my projects, is have a plan. That doesn't have to be an extensive outline, but it has to be some type of plan. Hey babies! The outlines I do vary from project to project. My novels are obviously a lot more extensive. I go typically chapter by chapter breakdown for the outlines. For some of the harder or longer novels, I will do scene breakdowns. For my short stories, I typically just do kind of overarching chapters, or I do just kind of a summary of what I want the book to be about, and that's it. For my novellas, I kind of do chapter by chapter, but for them I just do a quick little line or two of what's in each chapter. So it varies between projects and projects how much I outline, but I always have an outline. I find with me personally, I have pants projects in the past, which for those of you who don't know means just going into the project and writing. No plan, no real solid idea, you have the idea in your head and you go with it. I've done that in the past. I have a couple first drafts from that. The first drafts aren't good. They are shitty first drafts. Beyond shitty first drafts. So pantsing for me doesn't really work. I end up having to rewrite most of my first drafts. When I outline and plan, I keep probably a good 90-95% of that first draft, at least skeletal structure wise. I do rewrite or fix up a lot of the paragraphs and sentences and like character arcs, but the main bones of the story I don't have to rewrite. I don't typically take out chapters or full scenes, I just rework them. So for me, planning is a must. I have to sit down and plan before I write my next project. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, set time aside to write. It doesn't have to be every day. I can't write every day. I don't know many people who don't do it for a living yet, but I try for at least 3 or 4 times a week to write, to edit, to plan, to do something with one of my projects. Right now I'm juggling quite a few different projects, so I need to start getting those down so that there are not so many of them. But I set time aside to write. I do aim every day to try to write, just because with my short stories I'm on a self-imposed deadline that I'm honestly not sure I'm gonna hit. But I try to do it every day, but my main goal is at least 4 times a week. I find that's a good spot. It stops me from getting super burnt out, and I can get quite a fair bit done within a writing session. Typically my writing sessions hit anywhere from 2,000 to about 4,000 words. So if I write every day, I hit about 1,000. If I write 4 times a week, I hit about 2,000. So it kind of evens itself out. If you're brand new to writing, once you write a bit and you get used to how much you can write in a session, you'll be able to kind of figure out what works best for you. Don't stress. I find, at least personally, if I start really stressing about the project I'm working on, it leads to burnout, and then I don't work on anything for weeks at a time. I am trying to make writing my full-time career. I can't have burnout. And burnout, for most people, is never fun to deal with, regardless of what you're doing. So try not to stress. If you've noticed yourself stressing, take a step back, take a break. It's fine. My second to last tip, set deadlines. I know this might seem a little weird when I just said don't stress, and a lot of people, deadlines make them stress. But deadlines also can keep you focused on track for your progress. I like setting deadlines. I have a huge issue of setting deadlines way too early and I can never meet them. So I always end up setting one deadline that I don't meet. There's no possible way I can meet it. And then I learn and set it for a month or 2 out, and then I can hit it. I do have to get better on setting deadlines that are more achievable, but the deadlines do definitely help me keep at least working on the project little by little as often as I can. My last and final tip, which is probably one of the biggest tips that anybody can ever give you for any type of creative project or job or anything, have fun. Writing is supposed to be, at the heart of it, fun. You are not going to pick up a pen and start writing a novel if you don't like writing. You're not going to pick up a paintbrush and start painting a masterpiece of a picture if you don't like painting. It should always be fun. Even if you want it to be your career, I want it to be my career, and it is still fun to me. The days that it's not fun, and there are going to be those days. Whether you're tired of drafting, the editing's not going the way you want, or you realize there's something big that needs changed, those days are going to be frustrating and not overly fun. But those phases and those days will pass. If you sit down for a solid 2 months to write your book and nothing ever seems fun, it seems daunting, it seems tiring, it's frustrating you to no end, and you can't find any fun in it, maybe it's time to take a step back from that project, figure out what's not fun. It could just be the project. I've tried writing different books, different genres of books throughout my years of writing, and I realized I don't write those genres. I can't sit down and write a plain, regular romance. It's not fun to me. It's frustrating, it's annoying, and I hate it. So I take a step back, look at the project. If I can determine it's the project, I try writing something else. If I try writing something else and realize I'm still not having fun, maybe that just means writing's not for you. Those are my 5 tips for drafting.